I heard Joan Willis when she was bringing people back from this morning's break. She said, I'm pretty good at this. I have 5 kids. I don't have 5 kids, but I have worked with a 27-member board, so that ought to count for something. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. What a great morning. The inspiration from our awardees, the really timely and spot-on remarks from Sally Benson, good conversations over lunch, I trust. So I am really pleased then to kick off this afternoon. I'm Christine Irvin, C3E Ambassador, and so pleased to introduce this year's awardee in the law category, Melinda Boglio, General Counsel and Chief Investment Officer for the firm Clean Capital. I have to say, before starting, that this was such serendipity because my husband and I were traveling, vacationing in Alaska, my home state, just recently. And I happened to pick up a copy of the Anchorage Daily News, noticed a feature story on the front page, which led to a full-page spread, which she has there. Well, as you know, it's not always a good thing to be on the front page of any newspaper. But in this case, it was a celebration of a ribbon cutting of Alaska's largest solar installation to date, an 8.5 megawatt solar project financed, owned, and operated by Melinda's firm. Fabulous. So let me tell you a few things about Melinda. First, she is passionate about clean energy and its role in helping mitigate the impacts from climate change. As she said, she started as a volunteer. I was one of those kids knocking on your door, raising money for good environmental causes. That continued during her undergraduate work at Colgate and then focusing on environment and energy at Fordham, where she got a law degree. She then gained considerable expertise blending law and finance at 2 companies. For example, structuring complex finance instruments for large renewable energy projects domestically and in Latin America. Melinda then joined Clean Capital in 2018 when it was a promising startup. But rather than list so many accomplishments, let me just say that her CEO and colleagues credit her with being instrumental in guiding the company's rapid evolution into one of North America's leading commercial solar asset owners. It now operates in 26 states and U.S. territories, has investments over $1 billion, supporting a development pipeline nearing 1 gigawatt. Clearly, Melinda is having an outsized role in a sector that is so crucial for bringing about the scale and the speed that Sally Benson was talking about this morning. She's also respected, though, for her leadership qualities and track record in promoting diversity, both within the company and the field at large. Clean Capital's leadership and over 50 staff are fully 50% women. Not bad. Finally, I just have to say, Melinda is probably no one to mess with. I say that based on a lot of things, but also the fact she played rugby in college and is also active in K-Wire in New York, otherwise known as Kick-Ass Women in Renewable Energy. So Melinda, on behalf of all of us here, congratulations.
Thank you, Christine. Those are very kind words. I think I've mentioned this to a couple of you. I'm really nervous because my mom is watching at home, so hi, Mom. I feel like normally it all sort of what happens stays in the room, but I've got her at home tuning in. So thank you, Christine, for the kind words. This has been such an amazing experience these last couple of days. I keep mentioning this. This is like not the group of people that I typically hang out with when I go to conferences. I don't know how many, I've met so many scientists, like real live scientists in the lab doing really cool things. It's is blowing my mind. So I've really enjoyed connecting with everyone and learning about what everybody's doing. So as Christine mentioned, 23 years ago, I came home from college for the summer. I needed to find a job, so I looked in the newspaper because that's how we found jobs back then. And I saw an ad that said, "Do you want to save the environment?" And I thought, yes, I do, actually. So that's how I got involved in NYPIRG, the New York Public Interest Research Group, which is a nonprofit in New York State. And I spent the next several summers canvassing, lady with a clipboard, going door to door across Long Island, knocking on doors, ginning up support for our environmental campaigns, mostly focused on clean energy. When I graduated, I actually went and worked full-time at NYPIRG for 3 years. I was doing some community organizing in upstate New York. I was based in Syracuse, and I loved it. And that's when I decided I wanted to be Erin Brockovich. So I went to law school, and as Christine mentioned, I went to Fordham Law School. And I was very involved in the environmental groups. I had a really wonderful internship with a group called Earth Justice, which is like a premier environmental litigation group. And I'll spare you the rest of the details, but the punchline is that at some point along the way, I realized that my passion actually wasn't in litigation, but I really liked deal making. And through, researching kind of what that would look like and what my options are, I wound up in the project finance group at Chadbourne & Park, which is not a law firm that's around anymore, but if you've been around for a little while, you probably know them. They're now part of the Norton Rose Fulbright Group. And so I worked at Chadbourne for a little while, and then I was at White & Case for a little while, and just learned a ton working on some really exciting transactions domestically in Latin America, mostly renewables, though not all renewables, but mostly renewables. And that was really a wonderful experience. And then about 5.5 years ago, I got the opportunity to join Clean Capital as their general counsel. It was a little bit scary, frankly, for me to do that. I was leaving a very prestigious law firm with, what I felt like was pretty good job security. I'd been there, I was on partner track, I was there for a while to go work. I was employee number 7 at this little startup. So, it was a little bit scary, but it was honestly the best decision I've ever made for me personally and also for me professionally. There's a lot of women that have supported me over the years, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute. The founders of Clean Capital are all men. We won't hold it against them. But they've always been incredibly supportive of me, of diversity, of the other women in the organization. So as Christine said, I'm really proud we're 50% female, and we're actually over 70 now. I feel like we were probably at 50 a week ago when I talked to Christine, but we're growing so rapidly that we're over 70. And we are 50% female. 50% of our executive team is female, so it's all across the board. I'm really proud of that, and I love the women that I work with. And the founders really pushed me out of my comfort zone and really encouraged me to step outside just the lawyer, bucket that I had been in for my whole career, which is how I came to have probably the only person in the history of the world with the titles of both general counsel and chief investment officer. I mean, that's not a typical connection there. But I've loved it. I've learned so much, and I really have to credit, the team at Clean Capital for, pushing me to this place. So as I mentioned, I'm blessed to have several groups of women in my life. I think Lizzie, I'm not sure where she is, she called them her tribes. Going back to those days as a canvasser at NYPIRG, I still keep in touch with women that I know from 20-something years ago. There's 11 of us on a text chain. We talk every single day. Which is remarkable. And I have my mom friends, and I have the K-Wire, Kick-Ass Women in Renewable Energy group. And whenever I am doing something really difficult, I like to close my eyes for a minute and imagine their hands are right on my back or on my shoulders and just giving me that support and pushing me forward to do the thing that I need to do, whatever that hard thing is. And I'm just, I'm just delighted that I have all of you now that I can consider part of, or one of my groups, one of my tribes. And I really feel like, we've heard a lot of people say today that we need really significant change and we need to be innovative and we need to do something big. And I have no doubt that that's going to come from the people in this room. I'm just so inspired by the work that everyone here is doing and just really grateful to be here and be part of this group. So anyway, thank you all. I'm over time. I appreciate it.
I'm here to introduce Piper Foster Wilder, the winner of our Entrepreneurship Award this year. Piper has started a company, 60 Hertz Energy, which provides computerized maintenance management system software for microgrids, C&I solar, and energy storage systems in remote areas. And this is the kind of system that this system is being used from Nigeria to Mexico to the Canadian Arctic. When I first talked to Piper, I was just so excited because I have had the experience of trying to keep geothermal projects operating in remote areas. A colleague of mine had just come back from Ethiopia, where he had just rejuvenated their one small operating geothermal power plant. It had numerous failures and problems, and mostly related to not being able to operate in that remote area and the operators not having the training and software systems that they needed to maintain the thing. So I was just really I was just really glad that Piper had seen the difficulties that operators have in these keeping these remote systems going. She moved to Alaska to serve as Deputy Director of the Renewable Energy Alaska Project in Anchorage. And while getting renewable and diesel power projects installed in remote areas was exciting, keeping them running was a real challenge. And optimally operating them was also difficult. So large-scale power plants use MMS software all the time to track issues and do routine maintenance, preventative maintenance, but small-scale systems don't have this same opportunity to have software systems that will actually help them be reliable and operate over the long term. Piper's experience as Vice President of Aminus Controls, an Internet of Things company, where she developed their thermal metering product line destined for solar thermal systems in Austria, Germany, and North America, gave her the background to develop software for maintaining and operating these small-scale remote systems. Her start in renewable energy stemmed from her time as board chair with Colorado Solar and Storage Association, developing solar thermal as a service program in partnership with 6 rural electric cooperatives in Colorado's Western Slope. She's raised more than $3.5 million for 60 Hertz, whose mission is to ensure that renewable energy assets achieve their full useful life and that maintainers achieve their full potential. Piper speaks at entrepreneurship events and helps to mentor budding entrepreneurs to pass on that passion for starting new things and keeping them going. So let me give Piper a chance to speak for herself, and I congratulate you, Piper, on the Entrepreneurship Award.
Well, thank you. It's truly meaningful to receive this award, and I'm deeply honored and touched to have the chance to share the podium today with so many of you, and also to have a chance to raise visibility and awareness that maintenance is true sustainability, and it's a very overlooked part of our sector, and certainly not a very glamorous one, but please think of us related to anything from preventative to corrective, cleaning assets, troubleshooting, et cetera. I'll start with a quick story. Entrepreneurs are really problem solvers. They are professionally curious, asking, how can I make that better? And how can I make that work more efficiently? And in the course of the initial founding of 60 Hertz, it was important to me to follow and job shadow Alaska Native microgrid operators to understand more about their work and how they were being challenged to complete their jobs. So this meant getting on lots of small bush planes. My daughter was 6 months old at the time, and we had a consultant who came with a human-centered designer, and we flew through terrible weather. We flew over mountain ranges, really bumpy plains. Hannah threw up in her purse on one of these trips. We had an incoming aircraft warning on another one. We had a bush pilot that made jokes about plane crashes, but we did our human-centered design and evolved this product in a way that we can truly be proud of. And as said, not only remote microgrid systems, but today 60 Hertz is covering solar and storage assets all over North America and globally. I'll give a quick soapbox. What good is a podium if you can't give your soapbox? And that is really a theme that many of you are aware of, that in terms of venture capital, less than 2% is going to a single female founder like me. And there are a lot of efforts and awareness to reverse this and at least equalize it to a certain degree, but we have a long way to go. And so may I add to that soapbox also the notion of diversity in procurement, such that vendors like ours have a more equal conversation with counterparts that are procuring software, such that they're incentivized to take a bet on a company that may not look or sound like them. So I'd like to say, give a girl a contract. Also, a short moment of a psalm. A psalm would be gratitude through a faith-based lens. I am a person of faith, and I can say that this journey with 60 Hertz has been so hard and so challenging professionally, but has really helped me learn much more about an energy that we rarely talk about, which I'll speak to as the divine energy. However unfashionable that note may be, I think the opportunity for each of us to make a little more space for that yielding and that pausing, I can certainly say from my own experience that has been one of the bigger unlocks of seeing progress for our company and my team, and just this notion that grace is a gift given and not necessarily earned when we are all trying so hard to be achieving such big goals to allow that moment of grace. Importantly, the shout-outs. First of all, what an honor to be working with the 60 Hertz team, just loyal and committed and competent people. I have to speak immediately to Tanya James, my co-founder. Tanya is the 17th generation in her family to serve in our armed forces and saw combat in Afghanistan. She is Alaska Native. She's a Yupik Eskimo. And she was also a police officer. And I joke that all of those stressful experiences really help with running a startup. She and her wife Mary and their 14-year-old boys built their house last summer amid pouring rain on the margins of 60 Hertz, and not like a log cabin in the Alaskan wilderness, but like it has granite countertops and crown molding. It's just a privilege to walk through life with Tanya, and she probably isn't even watching. She's so busy actually getting things done. But I want to thank to Frances Ball, my dear longtime friend Frances Ball, who is the COO of Launch Alaska and was my nominator. And Frances is as impactful and effective as she is humble, and will be the last person to be boasting about herself, but the first one you'd want to call. So Frances, thank you so, so much. I received a wonderful message from a longtime mentor, Heidi Van Genderen, who some of you may know, and Heidi was one of the first women that believed in me and taught me how to get my job done early days at the Sopris Foundation. Heidi was such a good mentor. She made me think I'd done that whole thing myself, and I hadn't at all, but she really helped me believe in that. Community, an unsung and uncanny fact is that Alaska has a tremendous number of women in energy. And just to speak to this, naturally, our long-serving Senator Murkowski, who chairs the Senate Energy and Finance Committee, recently Mary Peltola, please look into ranked choice voting as a PSA. And then Gwen Holdman, who founded the Alaska Center for Energy and Power, the formidable Mira Kohler, past chairwoman of AVEC and on the board of NRECA, Erin Whitney, who is chairing the Arctic Energy Office, Crystal Engquist, the director of the Alaska Power Association. And, you know, each of these, it shows the power of when women are working together in this sector. Finally, I want to conclude by thanking my wonderful family, my husband, Nathaniel Wilder, with whom I will always be in love. And my parents are Tad and Melissa Foster, and I think they're here. Oh, good. Would you like to stand up? Oh, you know, their rearing gave me a gift that I'd never before noticed, and that is the consciousness free of self-doubt. I have made so many mistakes. But I have a consciousness free of self-doubt, and that is thanks to how you've raised me. And I only hope that that's something I can give to Binget and Otto as well. Thank you.